Boom. Who do we have today? Ben Barrientos.
So I know that you wanted to be an insurance agent from the get because that's what every kid wants to be.
No.
So tell me, what is your secret?
You don't really know if your callers suck, if your leads suck, or if your system sucks.
That's awesome,
So
man.
you open the doors and everything just was skyrocketed. It was perfect.
My thing is, so here, I'll tell you my secret, and it's 100% honest.
Buckle up. It's the Insurance Dudes podcast.
Well, thank you, Ben Barrientos, for joining the Insurance Dudes. Welcome to the world famous Insurance Dudes. We're very big in Greece.
Okay.
We're all greased up.
All
Second
greased
time
up.
I've used that joke.
Yeah,
Not a good
it's a
one.
good one. So you're in the insurance business.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, why don't you tell us? Number one.
Ooh,
what's the first question?
Mr. Craig.
The first question.
First
And
question.
you may even be able to, the viewers, those viewing, have a hint of what Ben's first concert was. But go ahead and tell us.
Real Big Fish.
Real
Yes.
Big Fish, some ska.
Yes. I grew up loving ska, so that was like my favorite thing, going to check out punk rock bands, Mustard Plug,
Yes.
It was I grew up in Utah, and so they had X96 would have like their concerts, and they'd have lots of different bands that would come in and stuff. It was awesome.
That is great.
That's awesome. I think Real Big Fish was from Orange County. I mean, I'm in Orange County, and I remember, man, those were fun. Like that 96, right? Like right around 1996. It was a fun time for music, I think. Other people probably like ska sucks, but I liked it. Fun.
I like
happy.
ska. It's uplifting.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's like reggae on
Yeah,
steroids. It's reggae on
Right,
steroids.
Because we were coming out of the grunge era where it was cool to kill yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like or music that
Or have
was
your girlfriend.
super
kill you.
depressing.
Depends on how you
Right.
wanna put that one together.
Yeah, no, I got it, Craig.
The other OJ. So, okay, the second thing is, now this is trickier, Ben. Now look behind Jason there.
Yeah,
Called him not Jason. What in the hell is wrong with me? Look behind him, and
You got
what famous 80s sitcom is behind him?
Is that Married with Children?
Ooh, close.
Is it
Now
close?
imagine somebody it's close because she was grumpy and so was he. The person behind me was grumpy
Yes.
and so was.
Does she have a high voice? No.
Yes.
Oh,
She lives in Hawaii now, I think.
that's not Fran Drescher, right?
Oh, that's exactly what Craig sounded like.
That's who he sounded like, right?
Yeah, it is.
I don't even know what I'm doing over here.
Roseanne.
Oh,
You can look at the quilt. The quilt gives it
Oh.
away for me.
You're right. They were both grumpy.
They were both grumpy.
We could cut in the Roseanne singing the Star Spangled Banner, but then that might cause more.
I think we should right now.
Cut that in.
So Ben, kind of take us back. So I know that you wanted to be an insurance agent from the get because that's what every kid wants to be.
No.
So tell us, so at what point, like, how did you get into it, man?
I actually, when I was in college, I was working as a flight instructor, and I used to teach people how to fly. That was my 9 to 5. And
Wow.
I saw that the industry was tanking and there was no jobs. So I was like, you know what? I need to make a career change. So I started looking into sales because you can make a lot of money in sales. And it was more about how good you are at what you do. And that's how you got paid. Wherein as a pilot, it doesn't matter how good you are. As long as you don't die, you just stay alive longer, you get paid more. And so, it's all based on how long you've been with the company and then what licenses you have. So basically, I, started looking around And I actually happened to call up my sister's boss, who was one of your guys' guests, Kirk Baker. And
Captain Kirk.
Captain Kirk, yeah. So
Good dude.
You know, he told me, he's like, you know what? Insurance is a great gig if you're good. You can make good money. You have freedom and flexibility. You can be self-employed. You're an independent contractor. And I was like, well, heck, maybe I'll look into it. And I went and actually worked with his brother for about 3 years, learning the industry. And we did very well. And then eventually I opened up my own agency, and, you know, we hit huge numbers and did very well. And, you know, been very blessed.
That's awesome,
so
man.
You opened the doors and everything just was skyrocketed. It was perfect.
I was terrified. I mean, so when I was working for Kirk's brother, we started dabbling in internet leads, and you know, their production at the time was maybe 20, 25 apps or policies on a monthly basis. And, you know, we were trying to increase that. And, you know, it was personal lines almost exclusively. We did almost no commercial lines. And we started hitting, you know, 80 to 100 policies a month. And we were doing very well. And it was when we started buying internet leads. This is when internet leads were a brand new thing, you know, like there was, you know, before, I think it's insuranceleads.com bought all the companies. Bankrate bought all of them and made them all one company back when there was like 10 different companies. And the cost for a lead was like $1.50 instead of like $15 like they are now. And, you know, when I decided to open my agency, I opened up with 7 agents working under me, and they were all on a salary. And I spend anywhere from $5 to $10 grand a month in internet leads. And I was just sweating bullets. I mean, I got so in debt. I got over 100 grand in debt within 6 months. I blew through my savings. But we were hitting record numbers. I mean, we were doing 200 to 300 policies a month, and we were just closing deals like crazy. And the first month, I blew through 40 grand in my first month, and I was terrified. But once the sales started coming in, and then once renewals hit, I was living on a cloud. Within a year, I was able to pay off my $100,000 in debt, and I was making money. I was able to live well, and things were great, you know? So it took a while, and it took a lot of risk and a lot of guts, but I was able to achieve some great things in those first few months of having opened my agency. And it was scary. I mean, I remember I would stay in the office till midnight. One time I had a cop come into my office, and I'm sitting there working, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I'm working." And he's like, "Well," he's like, "We're not accustomed to seeing businesses on this street open this late, so we thought maybe there was some kind of a break-in." And I'm like, "No, I'm the owner. Here's my ID, and like my name's on the door."
That's so good.
And he was like, "All right, well, go ahead and carry on." I'm like, "Well, but thanks for checking in on me. That's really nice of you to come in." And you know, guns weren't blazing, so I was happy about that. But
I wish people would break in and close leads.
Right.
Yeah, that would be a good problem.
But yeah, I mean, that's the story of how I started in insurance, and it's a fun one.
Ben,
That's awesome.
It's so awesome. And the whole internet lead game, it's still more or less the same thing. You buy them and you have to stick with it. And I think that the challenge that most agents, because we're so SOS, shiny object syndrome, that we get it didn't work after 2 weeks, and calling them 1 or 2 times, and we're like, these leads suck, and then that's it, right? And I mean, I was at that place that you were at one point. I mean, and I'm relatively new to doing internet leads, and Jason walked me through that. He walked me off talked me off the ledge a couple times back in December. I think I was 2 months in, really spending like that, in the 10, 15, 20,000, and it's real money going out. You're going, nothing's coming back. He's like, spend more. And it works. I mean, you have to hang in there,
and it's funny because back when I was an employee and I was learning the industry, and I remember going to a meeting with a bunch of insurance agents, and they were talking about best practices. And this one guy comes out and he says, look, my guy is closing 20% of the leads that come in. And we're like, wow, that's incredible. Like, what is he doing? And he's like, well, he has this notebook. And in this notebook, he writes down every lead. And then he writes down the lead's name and what time he called them at. And then the next day, he writes down the lead's name and what time they called them at. And he makes sure that he calls them at different times of the day, every day for the first week. And then he makes sure he calls them on a Saturday. And so that notebook starts getting huge because you're calling them so many times and you're offsetting it. And I thought, you know what? That's a great idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to build automation inside Salesforce. So I actually went and we bought Salesforce. This was 10 years ago. We bought Salesforce. I created custom objects. We had the enterprise edition. I set it up automated workflows and we were killing it. And that's what we did. We built it all inside of Salesforce. And this was back before you had DYL and Velocify, and before you had all these other, what are called predictive dialers, where now that you can buy a software and it's already done for you. But as we created this and I set up these automations and these campaigns, it popped up the reminders, call them at this time, at this date, call them at this time, at this date. And that's what made sure we called them. And then if the campaign went through 9 calls or 10 or 15 calls, depending on the lead source, what we would do is we would set it up and tell it to, okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna set up an additional follow-up campaign in 6 months. And then every 6 months, we'd hit them up again and we'd refresh that campaign. And what you'd find is you'd close deals everywhere. You'd close deals from new leads, from old leads, every which way. And you just start, all of a sudden, within a month and a half after starting your campaign, you just start getting sales and you'd start getting deals coming in. And, you didn't always have to price. You didn't always have to beat them on price, because sometimes it was just the fact that you called them back in 6 months, like you said you would. And your word track matched your follow-up. And these people are like, wow, you actually called me back in 6 months. I can't even get my insurance agent to call me back. And so, about a claim or whatever. And so people, they really like that. And so it ends up becoming where they see that you're working hard and you're trying to do the work. And so even if you can get in the ballpark or offer better coverage, they're likely to switch.
What are you using today?
I'm kind of software agnostic. We've used all kinds of stuff. I mean, we've used from different programs, from DYL to Velocify to Salesforce. Primarily today is Salesforce. I mean, I still have Salesforce systems. I still have Salesforce programs running. But I will tell you, Salesforce is a huge investment. It's very expensive. It's very complicated. I don't typically recommend people to just jump into Salesforce unless you are very tech savvy. It's a very difficult thing to do. I will tell you my favorite program that I ever used, and I don't even use it anymore, was Velocify.
Right.
They have a very clean, very good system. It's very expensive now. They have almost exclusively gone over after the financial industry, and it's a very expensive system. And ideally, they actually have a program where Velocify sits inside of Salesforce. And that was my favorite program to use. I don't use it anymore, but that's something that I think, if you want to dump loads of money into this and you want to create a Cadillac program, then that's what you want to do. But you don't have to do that. That's the thing, is you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to dump 10 grand, 20 grand a month into this. There are ways to do it nowadays with so many leads that have been purchased and are resold. The challenge that most people have today is that they want to do as little work as possible and get the highest rate of return. But it just doesn't work that way. You have to find a niche, and you have to find a gimmick, a way that you're going to get in, whether that's going after X dates or whether that's going after specific business types. If you're going to go in the commercial industry, you got to find you can't just go and say, I'm going to go after all home and auto leads, and I'm just going to call out of aged leads. You can do that. You can do a telemarketing campaign off of aged leads. You will run yourself ragged if you're calling it yourself. And half the time, if you're not calling it yourself, you don't really know if your callers suck, if your leads suck, or if your system sucks, or your agents that are getting the leads just don't know how to close. So there's so many unknown factors. I always tell people, do it yourself first, see what works, and then go from there.
Awesome advice. So with your, I mean, it goes to show too that it's not the mechanism, because back to your buddy that was doing the calling through the notebook. I mean, that'll still work. Like,
you can do that.
That call gets made. Yeah. Yeah. People get so focused on the mechanism, and they, to your point, don't want to do anything.
Right.
That, like, even if you invest in, I mean, we use different systems too, and we've switched multiple times, been, used Velocify in the past. You got to learn it. Like, Velocify was probably one of the smoothest, but like even the system that we're on now, it's like, I tell everybody, you got to learn, you got to spend 40 hours. You want to learn it, spend 40 hours into it. But it's also going to be able to help automate all those processes that will help you be successful, especially when it comes to internet leads, because to your point is they are getting sold to a lot of different people now. And it's like, and everybody has that. That software is so much more readily available to everybody. So now you're not the only person calling 6 times the first day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, everybody's doing it now. And that's why I'm saying you got to have a gimmick. You got to have a leading edge. What sets you apart from everybody else that's doing the exact same thing? You know, is it because you're hitting them up with call, text, emails? Or is it because you're hitting up aged leads and you're hitting them exactly at 3 months instead of 6 months in that renewal? So you're waiting for them to get old so that nobody else is calling on them? Or, are you calling out of the yellow pages specifically for landscapers? Because that landscaper, and you're calling them on a Saturday morning or something because maybe they're not working on those days. And that landscapers care more about this specific thing. So you throw that in your word track. It's just a matter of figuring out a specific gimmick. Nobody knows that better than you in your industry, in what you're specialized in, whether it's personal lines, commercial lines, or a specific type of commercial industry. And then also your area, your demographic. Where are you actually based out of? Are you going Spanish speaking, English, Haitian Creole, Korean? I don't know. But, you got to figure that out, what works for what you're going for.
Ben dropping knowledge nuggets all over the place. I love it. I love it. Ben, what is your secret? What is your secret niche, if you don't mind telling us? Give us something. It doesn't have to be, it could be a little vague, it could be a little off, but tell me, what is your secret?
My thing is, so here, I'll tell you my secret. And it's 100% honest. Finding people, because in my experience, your team, you're only as good as your team. So your people are the most important thing. Finding the right people that will help you grow.
Love it.
It doesn't even matter what business type you're going for. To me, at this point in my profession, my professional experience and where I want to be in the future is finding people that can achieve that. If with my resources, my understanding, and my ability, they can achieve 10 times more because I put them in that position and I have the experience that I can prop them up and they can achieve amazing things. And whether that means they stick with me for a year or 2 years, but I get amazing things out of them versus not. So for example, when I first started in insurance and I was with Kirk's brother, his name's Brett Baker, it was a great opportunity for me. It didn't matter what I got paid. It didn't matter anything. It was the fact that he kind of gave me the freedom to just go. And he gave me the capability to dream and just to achieve great things. And that's something that I'll always be grateful for. And so I hope that I can do that for other people as I come in contact with them, because I know whatever industry it is, whether it's insurance, financial, whether it's mortgages, whether it's health insurance, life insurance, it doesn't even matter, taxes, bookkeeping. There are great things to be done. There are ways to disrupt the industries. And so you got to think outside the box. And if you can find those people that are able to think outside the box, and you're able to, assimilate them into your team, and you can achieve great things, that's huge. So that's where I'm focused in on.
Ben, where did you get this kind of global thinking? A lot of agents will kind of stay in their pond and stay comfortable and not think outside the box. You have, big picture. There aren't many agents that say, I'm going to go get Salesforce and I'm going to automate that. They look and they're like, holy crap, that's $1,000 a month. I'm not messing with that. Right.
Yeah. I used to pay $40,000 to Salesforce a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's about like that.
But if all your agents could do twice the amount of work, you just doubled your agency.
Right.
Exactly.
Doubling.
We were doubling every year.
Yeah. If they can charge that, right, this exchange, you're paying them for something. If they can say, hey, you're going to have to pay $4,000 a month for this, there has to be something there, right? They don't just say where we have a name.
Right.
Like obviously there's something that you get in exchange for that. And it was probably 10 times the production.
Yeah.
Of the guy down the street.
Yeah. For sure.
I would like to know how you find people. How do you bring them in, and how do you implement the culture that you're talking about?
Sure. So, well, and just so I can answer your first question, my thought process has always been to dream big. I would read books on, I like to read biographies. I love biographies. And as I read people's biographies, I realize the people that achieve great things is because they intended to achieve great things. It didn't just fall in their lap. Like you have to think like, this is what I want, and then you go for it. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And so, having an insurance agency to me, is great, but that's what I'm actually involved in multiple businesses. I'm invested in many businesses. I look to grow as an individual and with employees and with people in general. So that's really important to me. And then your other question, what was you said? Oh, finding people. Okay.
Yeah. How do you implement it? How do you get them into the culture that you've been speaking of?
Yeah. So number one, you have to make yourself available. I mean, it's kind of like you're always looking.
Yeah.
People oftentimes think, well, I'll hire when I need somebody. Well, how do you know the right people are going to come around when you need somebody? Right. Like that to me is like, and Kirk will attest to this, because I interviewed with Kirk, and Kirk loved me. He was going to hire me. And I grew his brother's agency by a few $1 million. I put a lot of money in his pocket from what he paid me to what he even made. I was making well over what he paid me in commissions for him. And so, Kirk, he'll attest to this, which is, I came along, he wasn't hiring at the time. His staffing was full, so he didn't take that risk. And so I went and worked with Brett. And so oftentimes as business owners, we're like, well, my staffing is full and blah, blah, blah. Well, hell, if you come across somebody and they're a golden nugget, are you really going to say, well, I just don't want to reach down and pick that up? And that's the way we have, as business owners, you really got to think that way. If you come across somebody who is, motivated, passionate, hardworking, honest, trustworthy, you like them, you get along with them, why wouldn't you hire them? It's just
a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. And I think too often we miss that out. And then when I hire people, I tell them, look, you're coming onto my team, but we're a family. And in the sense that we work together, and never will I ever hold you back. Like your parents love you. What do? They do everything they can to make you succeed. They'll help you go to college. They'll help you study. They provide good traits and attributes so that you can be successful at life. I will do the same thing with my people, where we sit down with them, we talk to them. If they're not getting along with an employee, hey, what's going on? Why can't we get along? We just want to, succeed as a company, and this isn't going to work if we're not getting along. And motivating people. We put a lot of software on people's computers in some of the businesses that I own, where we're tracking a lot of what they do, and we explain to them, look, This isn't to be big brothering you. We're not trying to see what you're doing all day long, what websites you're visiting. I don't care. I'm not going to be checking that. But the reason we do it is because we want to make sure that that we know what you're doing, and that we can trust you. And if there's a failure somewhere, it's hopefully not because you're not doing your job. It's because maybe we didn't properly train you. We failed you. We needed to improve as a company. And so they see that, where we're not out to get them, where an employer oftentimes can give that persona where I'm out to get you as an employee. You're slacking off. No. That's never the case. We know you're always doing your best. And that's the attitude I give. And my people, my employees, they're my best resource, and they're my product. And so, the greatest thing that I had recently was we had a bunch of employees that sent out a birthday gift card to me a couple years ago, and it was signed by well over 100 employees. Wow. And these people were so grateful for their employment, for their jobs. And I mean, it's one of the greatest experiences that I've ever had, to be able to benefit other people's lives by providing employment and a good career for them that they love. And so that to me is the greatest part.
Sure. It's the lines start to blur between, your home family and your work family, because you pick up things from your work family that you then bring home and you apply, and you pick up things at your home family that you're like, ooh, this would work over here. And it's amazing when you start to run your business and your life by certain frameworks, for lack of a better word, then all of a sudden it all just comes into place. You're getting the right people. You're around the right people that you want to have. You're around the people that are rowing in the same direction and want to get results, and that you can impact, and they impact you.
Right.
Symbiotic. This isn't Darth Vader running the Death Star over here. This is, right. You need to have a culture, and you need to have a family.
Right. Well,
at your agency.
You get that agent, that feeling. You get that when people see you all pulling together, and everybody feels like they're pulling together. I mean, going back to Star Wars, if you looked at, the rebels, the Rebel Alliance, everybody was just pulling. Nobody was expected to do it. Everybody was just kind of trying to do their best and adding what they could. And, when you give that opportunity to your people, where you say, we just want everybody to do your best. And, my thing is always, you want a promotion, earn it. Come to me, bring me ideas, give me, what is it that I'm going to want to pay you more? I'm going to want to give you a new title. I'm going to want to, pay your trip to, the Philippines or Puerto Rico or Texas or California or LA or Miami. Why am I going to pay for that trip? All of the, whether I wanted to pay for you to go to that trade show. Why? How are you going to earn it? What makes it worthwhile for me to do that for you? Of course I want to pay that for you, but why?
Love it. So Ben, what would somebody coming into the industry new, or somebody who wants to revamp their agency, what would be the one piece of advice that you would give that agent?
The thing that I'm finding nowadays, for insurance agents, don't be a generalist. Find a niche. You gotta find a niche. You will, especially if you're starting out, like maybe once you're 10 million, then you can take whatever comes your way and you have employees that handle it and go. But if you're starting out, get a niche. Find and it needs to be a niche that you have a competitive advantage. Because I've talked to people and they say, well, I want to do bars. I'm like, okay, what do you know about bars? what do you know about liquor liability? What do you know about this and that? And they don't know anything. Well, what experience do you have? Well, I grew up on a farm and my dad knew. Okay, then why aren't you going after farmers? Like, you need to go after a niche that you actually have some sort of advantage in. If you grew up on a farm and your family knows a lot of farmers and that's who you associate with, that's your niche. Those are the people you talk to. Why wouldn't you stick to that? You know what I mean? Yep. It's like, go to a niche that that you have connections in. Like I'm a former pilot. So if I was starting over, where would I go? I would go after aircraft insurance. I would go after liability. I'd go after pilots. I'd go after owners, charter companies and such, and so on. But yeah.
Yeah, the
Love
riches
it.
are in the niches.
Exactly.
If you don't niche up, then what happens is you're sitting here and trying to help everybody, and then I think there's nothing more aggravating than hearing one of my team say, "Oh, we did a commercial. We're terrible at commercial, and we were working on this commercial. It took 3 weeks to do," and you're just like, 3 weeks. That's awesome. There's so many other things that they could be doing that we
Right.
specialize in, right? We are home and auto. Focus on the home and auto. You could have
Right.
done, 200 quotes in the same amount of time that you spent 3 weeks working on this one deal, and then it falls through because it's not our appetite. Right.
Right.
So we really want to, I mean, I think there's no better advice than what you just said in finding that niche and then making it something that you enjoy, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
got to
it
be
has
something
to
you
be.
enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Cool.
awesome. Yeah.
Thanks so
Well,
much,
hey,
Ben.
Ben, would you be down with coming on again down the road? Because this is just an awesome,
Fire.
awesome talk here. I know that the listeners are going to freaking eat this thing up. We'd love to have you back on.
Sure, yeah. I'm always happy to share my little bit of
Yeah.
experience that I have and my understanding of the industry and the world as I see it. And
Yeah.
you know, I love business, and business in general grows through connections, sharing your knowledge, and sometimes not expecting anything in return. If
Mhm.
you just talk and share and discuss,
Yeah.
good things happen. You put good
For
energy
sure.
out, good energy comes right back.
Yeah.
Love it.
100%.
100%. Cool. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to say about yourself before we sign off here with you, Ben?
No, one of the things that I've just, from my understanding, and from one of the things that I've noticed and realized as I see insurance agents have a million things coming at them. They have everything from phone calls, from certificates of insurance, from customer service, billing issues, claims. Then they have to sell, right? I mean, that's what keeps you in business. So you got to always be building new clients and retaining your old ones. And so one of the things that I've had a privilege to be a part of are a couple of companies that I operate and also invest in. Are Team by the Minute, which is an answering service company specifically designed for insurance agents. Which is the idea is they create custom scripts. They answer your phones when you're too busy, so that your customers aren't getting a voicemail. They're able to share with that person answering the phone your issues and your concerns, and they're able to respond intelligently in a manner that you like because they have a custom script. So if somebody calls in, let's say for an insurance quote, and they want an auto insurance quote, they're able to actually ask intelligent questions like, oh, okay, well, what's the VIN number? What's the year, make, and model? What's the odometer? They can collect all the information, so you're not sitting there on the phone for 30 minutes waiting to get all that information. And, I don't know what you pay your people, but I'm sure it's going to be quite a bit if it's your salespeople. Plus, if they're sitting around waiting for somebody to run out to their car to get information because they weren't told, oh, you need to get all this additional information to get a quote, we're able to get that for you through that answering service. And so you pay by the minute. So you don't have to worry about hiring a full-time receptionist to answer your phone to give a professional feel, because these people will be able to answer your phone and they'll be able to get all the information necessary so that your client doesn't keep shopping. Because oftentimes if they call your office and they get voicemail, they're just going to run on to the next one. Well, if they call your office and they get somebody and they spent 5 to 10 minutes on the phone giving information out, they're not likely to keep shopping. Same whether it's an existing client, former client, or a brand new client, or a claim. And if they call you and you're busy at an appointment and you're not answering your phone, people get pretty upset and you're likely to lose. And that's a trigger for people to reshop. So by having somebody that's there to answer your phone, ask intelligent questions, you're able to get somebody to take that on. And so that's Team by the Minute. And
you know what, Ben? I actually I have signed up for Team by the Minute.
Oh, excellent. That's great to hear.
Kirk, yeah, we had Kirk on, so he went through it, and it's so awesome because we're starting Monday, but I'm super excited.
Yeah.
Because you run the numbers on that versus putting somebody full time in. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Right. Yeah, and the great thing is they can customize a script for you. So as you see a need to change the script, ask additional questions, you're getting a lot of regular follow-ups, that's going to be huge. And then the other company is Agency VA. And so Agency VA is a virtual assistant company. The idea is you have tasks and processes in your office. Oftentimes insurance agents have this difficulty where they go in and they get, one employee to do 10 different tasks. And so that one employee might actually be terrible. Hello?
100%.
Yep.
And so, sorry, I thought it broke out for a sec. So what ends up happening is if that employee can actually do a good job on those processes and on those tasks, it's typically because that's what they focus on. And so with a virtual assistant, you can actually segment those processes and those tasks, whether it's certificates of insurance, requoting, renewals, whatever it is that you need, and you send that over to that virtual assistant. They're able to take that on. They're able to do that for you. And that's an Agency VA. And that's another company that I am heavily invested in and operate with, and I'm an owner in. So
cool.
With Wesley.
And that's so key, is to set our employees up for success, and whatever it takes to help them produce more only helps us, rather than just hiring a bunch of people and saying, hey, you got all these tasks and just do them all.
Right. Yeah. Identify processes, segment that process, and assign somebody to do it. And with a virtual assistant, you can typically get it at much lower cost than a regular employee. And that's the idea behind Agency VA.
Love it. Cool, man.
That is great.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, no problem.
So if they want to, I think Kirk made a link, like a coupon code for Insurance Dudes people, and I would suspect that he'd be willing to throw that in there again.
Yes, definitely.
So yeah, and I can't remember what it is. You can look at the Kirk episode. And we could, if you circle back, we can throw it in the show notes here. But what's the website for both? Why don't you pop those?
Sure. And so that's going to be teambytheminute.com. If you're looking for an answering service, and if you're looking for a virtual assistant, that's going to be agencyva.com.
Nice. You just lay out what you want them to do, and they go and knock it down.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the key. That's key, is setting expectation. This is what I want. I want you to do this many a day and go and do it. And they do it. And they have trainers and all kinds of stuff set up to make sure it gets done right.
That's awesome.
Perfect. Love it, man.
Well, Ben, so good to have you. Thank you for hopping on. And I know that the dudes and dudettes will love this one.
Yep.
For sure. For sure.
As they rate it and do all that.
Yeah. So. And if people have questions and things, I'd love to get questions from people. And I could do a follow-up on questions and such too.
Cool.
That's awesome, man. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you. We will talk down the road, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Hey, you've got to check out the Insurance Dudes Inner Circle, coming soon, where you get extended interviews as well as live coffee talks in our private Facebook group. Join the mailing list today at theinsurancedudespodcast.com. Hey, thanks for checking out the Insurance Dudes. Hey, please subscribe. We got some really great stuff coming out.